I'd like to call to order the February 24th, 2020 meeting of the New Bern Board of Adjustments. We could have roll call, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, Alfred Barnfield. Richard Parsons.
Here.
Dorothea White.
Here.
Peter Dillon.
Here.
Jim Morrison.
Here.
John Riggs. John Murrell.
Here.
Kip Paragoy.
Here.
And Barbara Sampson.
Here.
All right. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, great. First item on the agenda this evening is consideration for adoption of the draft Board of Adjustment meeting schedule for 2020. I think all of you have had that in your packet, an opportunity to look at that. Should we have any comments or discussion amongst the board about this? Any issues? I would question the December 28th meeting date. That's the Monday after the Christmas weekend. You might have a hard time getting a quorum together, but I guess we can leave it there. And I don't know what else you would do. You don't want it before Christmas.
Or you can remove it from the calendar at this time if you feel, or we can leave it and there's a great chance we probably won't have anything at that time of year, but again, it's up to the board.
Okay,
We
maybe
can
that'll
move
be
it.
everybody's Christmas present to the board, is there nothing will come before.
That would be our
There you
Christmas.
go. Okay.
Is it, just a quick question, is it appropriate to move up the submission date to accommodate that, or no, it doesn't matter?
I'm not sure what your question is the submission date
It
on?
would be, say, late November submission date or something like that.
But it would still put the meeting
yeah.
before Christmas.
Yeah.
And I think that Christmas is on a Friday this coming year, and I think anything that week before probably is not going to work
Understood.
for getting a quorum here. It hasn't in the past, let's put it that way. Okay, any other discussion about the proposed meeting schedule for 2020?
I move we adopt the proposed schedule.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board about the proposed meeting schedule? Okay. Can we have a roll call vote on that?
Yes, sir.
I got it. Richard Parsons,
Yes.
Dorothea White,
Yes.
Peter Dillon,
Yes?
Jim Morrison,
Yes.
John Moreau,
Yes.
Kip Paragoy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. The next item on this evening's agenda is election of officers for 2020. The land use ordinance calls for a chairman and a vice chairman for the Board of Adjustments. And I will open for discussion amongst the board for the process that you would like to see going forward for the election, and any nominations, if you would so choose to do that this evening, or if you would like to put it off, form a nominating committee. There's all kinds of ways we can go with this.
Are you interested in continuing to serve?
That's a hard question. Depends on what comes up.
That sounds like yes to me.
I guess the question would be, am I able to serve? I don't remember how long I've been, when I was elected chairman. It's been a while.
Your term, yeah, I'm not sure when your term expires.
I think it's 22.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reappointed in
Okay.
this summer.
So you can be chairman every year, there's no,
Okay.
there's nothing.
And the answer would be yes, I'd be willing to continue to serve.
Well, I'll nominate Chip Paragoy.
I second that nomination.
Okay. We have a nomination and a second for myself to continue as chairman. Any further discussion?
Call the question.
Call the question. I think we can do this by voice vote.
Sure.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much for your confidence.
And are you eligible to be vice chair?
I'm eligible, but you're sitting in the seat already.
Well, I nominate Jim Morrison to be vice chair.
All right.
I second that nomination.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Mr. Morrison to serve as vice chairman. Is there any further discussion, additional nominations?
Seating chart change as part of that motion? We're okay. All right.
Okay, all in favor of Mr. Morrison serving as vice chairman for 2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Passed.
We have a new slate of officers for the upcoming year. Okay. That moves us on to the new business for tonight, which is consideration of a special use permit request for a boarding house. The property is located at 524 Roundtree Street and is further identified as Craven County Parcel Identification Number 8-008-047. Jeff, would you like to introduce this to
Thank you,
us?
Mr.
I
Chairman.
got it. Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I'd like to introduce to the board Seth Laughlin. He's our he is our land development administrator.
Land and Community
Land and
Development.
Community Development Administrator,
It's a mouthful.
the longest title that we have in the office. He's been with us, how many months now?
Since October 7th.
Since October the 7th. He'll be taking over duties as clerk to you. It has been my privilege and honor to serve as your clerk in this interim. But we'll be passing that over to Seth. I'll still be here at the meetings, providing support for Seth and to the board. But from this point on, Seth will be handling it for you. So I'll hand it over to Seth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggieri. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. As led off, our applicant tonight is Ms. Benita Simmons. The property is located at 524 Roundtree Street. The current zoning is C5, office and institutional. And if you refer to your memo, that property was rezoned by the Planning and
Go ahead, go.
Zoning Board on February the 11th from R6 to C5. Property is .142 acres, and the present land use is single-family residential. You can see the property at the corner of Roundtree and is it Riesenstein? Good enough. And we have a updated site plan that we'll skip to at the end of this presentation. I just said the zoning is C5, surrounded by R6. And the table of uses, the table of permitted uses, section 15146, does require a special use permit for this use in the C5 zoning district. It's a boarding house or a rooming house. Yeah, property was posted on the correct date. And the proposed project was reviewed and conditionally approved by the city's Departmental Site Plan Review Committee in October 18th. Staff finds the proposed project is consistent with the plan rules and regulations of the City of New Bern with no further changes. According to 15146, the land use ordinance, boarding house uses must obtain a special use permit to operate in the C5 office institutional district. Staff finds that the applicant has met all the land use ordinance requirements of section 15-54 for the special use permit, and we have no objection to the approval of this request. We'd be happy to take questions at this time.
Okay. Any questions for Seth? Since we have members of the audience here, I would take a minute to explain the processes that we're going to go through this evening at the hearing for this special use permit. The Board of Adjustments is a quasi-judicial board. Consequently, everyone who wishes to speak at tonight's meeting must be sworn in before speaking. The second important aspect of being a quasi-judicial board is that we may only consider substantial and material evidence, facts, in our decision-making process. We cannot accept hearsay, opinions, or emotions. The first step in the hearing process is for the applicant of the special use permit to be presented to the board by the city staff, which has just occurred. Following staff presentation, the board will begin to solicit facts concerning 6 requirements specified by law. After each of the 6 requirements, there will be a public comment period where evidence will be presented to the board. After all 6 items have been presented, evidence heard, and closing comments made, the board will deliberate and vote on each of the requirements one at a time. Following the voting, the board will vote on whether to approve or deny the application. Anyone who wishes to speak this evening, like I mentioned earlier, must be sworn in. So anyone that would like to speak during the public hearing portion of the agenda item tonight, please come to the podium and be sworn in.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth as far as you know?
I do. I'd like to wish the board a good evening and congratulations, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, on your election to your positions. My name is Matt O'Brien. I am an architect. I work full-time for Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. And from time to time, though, when it's a project that I feel I can help with, in this case a nonprofit 503c, and something I'm very supportive of, I am able to lend a hand on projects like this. I was asked by Benita, who you'll be meeting shortly, I believe, about 9 months ago, and there was a kickoff to get this project going. The first slide that we saw was a hand-drawn survey that a local surveyor had done, and in order to present to you tonight a site plan, we had to digitize in AutoCAD. So I got my draftsman hat on, and I kind of traced over the boundary lines and ensured its accuracy, and then started working with Jeff and his staff, which now includes Seth, and we were able to navigate through not only the zoning laws, but the International Building Code laws with Matt over at City Hall. So we come to you tonight after having gotten an approval to rezone the property from a residential neighborhood to a better and higher use, is a commercial zoning designation, and went to work on a couple of things. What we're asking for tonight in our special use permit is a change in the required parking area. Our original, and I can get into some reasons as to why in a moment, but as you can see, the lots in this neighborhood are kind of, shall we say, trapezoidal, and I don't know what you call our lot in the upper left corner there. It's sort of, I don't know what you would call that, multi-sided polygon. But anyway, it kind of rounded off the block. You can see the northerlymost property line kind of slopes down here where they kind of lose some ground. The right rear property line kind of comes to a point there. So it's an odd-shaped lot, which prohibited us from developing fully the required number of parking spots. And in this case, that was 5. We had trouble getting 5 parking spots, maintaining Americans with Disability Act access to and into and out of the structure. We've got that solved with this site plan. And I wanted to go back just a little bit to how this project was born. You might recognize Mike Williams here tonight with Habitat, the director of Habitat for Humanity. This was a house that was donated by Habitat for Humanity to Ms. Simmons with the idea of turning this into transitional housing. I don't know if the zoning code is caught up yet, but the building code refers to houses like this where multiple occupants, in this case 4, to 6 would not know each other, they're not related to each other, they would be there for a period of over a month, but less than several years. And so this idea of boarding house is kind of being phased out, especially in today's vernacular with regards to bringing incarcerated women, in this case, from prison and into the neighborhood. So that's interesting in a couple aspects. Of course, I think we can all get behind that idea and the need for that in New Bern, but also in respect to asking for special use permit on the parking, the women coming out, A, don't have driver's licenses in most cases, if not all. Part of their arrest and incarceration usually involved the revoking of such licenses. The second thing is the staff doesn't really want them to have driver's licenses when they're staying here. And the third thing I'd like to add to that is if we chew up all that southerly portion south of the house, the existing 2-story house, I think we eat up a lot of valuable green space that might better be used for children of the women to come visit. They'd have an outside place to play in a fenced-in area, in a safe area. So those were 3 of the 4th. The 4th is I'm helping develop a construction budget to repair the house, make the house accessible and meet the current building code, and also develop this parking space, which, as you can see, is 3 spaces shy of a full loaf. But our estimate is at this point about $110,000 to go into the house, which would include a new roof decking, a metal roof, some repair to the inside, making the bathroom accessible. So it's a medium-sized project. Also building a ramp that would allow handicap access in and out of the structure. So just to conclude a little bit, transitional housing is allowed in the building code for something like this. It's called I think we went with R residential-4 occupancy, which is different than zoning, but if Jeff needs to speak to that, he can. And transitional housing is allowed in such a occupancy. I wanted to mention again that Habitat for Humanity has and will continue to be involved. And that really is what I wanted to use my 4 minutes. I hope I didn't go over to state, but I'm available for any questions.
Well, thank you very much. Board members, we have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. Questions?
So how many bedrooms will there be?
4 bedrooms upstairs. And if you don't mind, I'd like to, at this point, have Bonita join me for some of those questions. You might come up, Bonita? And I think you might have to be
Was she sworn in?
She needs to be sworn in.
Yeah.
If anyone else plans on speaking, please come up to the podium. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I did that. A couple of these finer details, I think Bonita is in a better position to answer.
Okay.
The chairman asked about number of rooms.
How many bedrooms? Just reference the one
Oh, yes,
space for
sir.
5 versus used to be different.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. There'll be 3 bedrooms, 2 per bedroom.
Mhm.
And then we'll have 1 bedroom with an ensuite for our overnight supervisor.
So the change in the parking gives you adequate, you believe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was my main concern.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was my question about the supervision that would be needed on the site, and that person's would have a vehicle, I would assume, and so that
Yes, sir.
takes up the parking spot that you have, basically.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it's not a high-traffic area either, so it seems to me there's adequate street parking for incidental visitors.
Yes, sir.
There is, but technically, we're not allowed to count that.
Correct, but in terms of someone
It's a good
coming to visit,
observation, and-
whatever,
I'm glad you made it instead of making me say it.
And I might add that there's also carts in the vicinity so that our ladies, when they begin to become acclimated, they can go to their classes, they can go to their jobs without vehicle.
okay, great.
From the south, just north of crossing Reisenstein Street,
Mhm.
there's a carts.
Yep.
Bus stop there.
Where the parks located?
I'm sorry,
Where the parks located?
the parks,
Yes.
I don't,
Oh, I
You
think
have-
carts is what was said.
Oh, carts.
carts,
Which
yes,
stands
sir.
for,
Those are parks.
community area rapid transit.
Transit
Mhm. It's transit system
Yes.
offered here in New Bern.
Jeff, is this an appropriate time to make a comment?
Yeah, as far as the sorry. In reference to the existing carts stop, which was, as the applicant stated correctly, is just a little north of this site, over to the left, on the Craven Terrace side. That property that on the southern side, the most southern property that says owned by city in Craven County, is on the site plan right there. That property, right now, the city is using its CDBG funds to purchase a covered bus stop and have it installed on that site. So CARTS is aware of this and has verbally stated to staff that they will move that stop that's literally just off the page to the top right down to that covered bus stop. So the bus stop will actually be right next to this site. It'll be a covered bus stop, landscaped, modern, as you would have seen in other cities. We're in the process of purchasing 3 of those to be placed throughout the city. One of them at this bus stop, another one at the Utility Business Office, and another one at the Volt Center.
Any other questions for the applicants at this time? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to begin the 6-step process in dealing with the 6 steps required by law for us to be done. Also, we will be entertaining public comment about each one of these 6 steps as we go forward. So this will be a process and time for anybody who wishes to speak when called upon to come forward, state your name and your address, and we will be glad to hear what you have to say. The first requirement that we're required to consider is that the requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. And the process is that we ask the applicant to come forward and make that statement and any comments they would have about it.
Shall I answer now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, it is, sir. All requirements have been made per the outline on the first page of the application of the special use application.
Okay, thank you very much.
Shall I stay here?
No, not, wait, it's going to be back and forth, so you must stay close, let's put it that way, okay? At this time, anyone that would like to speak in favor of the application being complete, please step forward and speak. Is there anyone who would like to oppose the application being complete? Hearing none, we will
Are we on complete or number 1?
do what?
Are we on number 1? not
We're on number
complete?
1, yes.
Not complete, so we need to find if the requested permit is within this jurisdiction according to the table of
Well,
permissible.
we're going to
use.
go back and do all that as a board when we voted.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
We're doing this as public comment period,
Right.
where the audience and any of the citizens
Yeah.
get to comment on this.
Hey, I'm in training.
Okay. Anyone of the board have any comments about the application? The permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. Hearing none, we'll move forward to item number 2. And this is a rather simple one again, that the application is complete.
Yes, sir, it is complete. The application is complete.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone would like to speak in favor of the application as submitted? Anyone like to oppose the application as permitted? Any comments from the board about the application as submitted?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd just like to make the comment that it seems to be serving a purpose for the city and the community.
Okay. All righty. Moving forward to item number 3. If completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all the requirements of this ordinance.
Yes, sir. As the committee, my board, has carefully looked over the application, we would comply with everything that the city has asked us to as it regards the requirements of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or support of the fact that the project as proposed in the application, development will comply with all the requirements of this ordinance? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition? Board members, comments?
Will we consider the parking change as a condition?
We will have to deal with that because that is not in compliance with the
Right.
ordinance. Which brings up an interesting question, Jeff, in that you would normally think of that as a variance rather than part of the special use permit. How do we deal with that?
Well, there was 2 ways to deal with it. One was a variance,
It's a separate
it's
process.
a separate process, but the ordinance as such is put in the package, y'all, does allow flexibility in the application of the parking ordinance. And another, it's while we're doing, it was either 2 processes or 1.
Mhm.
So in the effort to understanding the applicant and wanting to be as, I guess, helpful as possible, we're combining the 2 into 1 process at this point in time, though a variance could have easily been asked for.
Okay.
But
And we can deal with that as a condition.
as a condition, that's how I would imagine that's how we handle it.
Okay,
Much like we did with 5-1 Metcalf, same
Yeah.
kind of situation.
same process. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions from the board about item number 3? Requirement number 4 is that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted.
With our ongoing partnership with our local law enforcement, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety located at 524 Roundtree Street. If I may just add, Chief Sumner has assigned Sergeant Keiss, I do believe, I spoke with him recently, and he's a part of our advisory board as well as the outreach part of the police department. And he will be working closely with us to develop special and unique situations to help with that. So,
Thank you very much. To the public, is anyone that would like to speak in support of item number 4, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the proposed plan? there anyone who would like to speak in opposition? If not, I'll open it to the board for comments, questions.
Question, how will it be periodic as far as the law enforcement security setup? Is that going to be periodic? Is it going to be designated? I mean, how is that going to be handled?
Ms. Simmons?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. White. A couple of things. First of all, we will have a security system placed in our home. And when I spoke with Sergeant Keiss, it would be periodically. You know, of course, we don't want to waste the taxpayers' money with just having someone there all the time. That is not, feasible. However, we'll have a security system. We'll have on-site supervision as well as the local law enforcement periodically patrolling.
And will the on-site person be there 24 hours?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, we'll have one person 24 hours, and then we'll have one who will be shifted. Like there'll be a person there from 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions before we close item number 4? The fifth requirement that we have to consider is that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. If you remember our past meetings, there really are 2 questions there, and the city attorney has asked us to deal with them separately when we come to conclusion in our voting process. But right now, we'll just deal with the fact that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property. Is there anyone? Ms. Simmons?
Thank you. Taking a blighted property and investing over $100,000 for renovation will only increase its value while potentially doing the same for neighboring properties.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak in support of item number 5? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to requirement number 5? Hearing none, I'll turn to the board for questions, comments about number 5.
Yeah, it seemed to me that she got everything pretty well covered on everything that will go on, and I think it'll make the land and the area an even better place to live and give people more opportunities. And I like the way somebody finally stepping forward to do it.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 6, the requirement number 6. The location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the use, with the area in which it is to be located, and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city. Ms. Simmons?
I'm certain that by now you all have seen a picture. If you all don't mind, can you put that picture back up of what it looks like right now? Oh, okay. There it is right there. No, the picture, I'm sorry, sir. And it's just a small picture, but if you are a part of this great city of New Bern, if you haven't seen it, you can go by and see it. It doesn't look beautiful right now. It just doesn't. And when it was given, I'm like, oh man. Any place but that. But it was given. It was given with the hopes that our organization could turn it around. And so, in conclusion, in answering that question, 524 Roundtree Street will be in harmony and character of the use that is proposed with general conformity and plan of development of the city. With over $100,000 placed into this home, it's going to be the talk of the corner. I can promise you that, because people will remember what it looks like right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak in support of requirement number 6? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to requirement number 6? Location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city. Hearing none, I'll turn discussion to the board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I am very familiar with 524 Roundtree Street. It has a unique history in that it was once a rooming house, pre-40s. So I'm very familiar with that, and it seems to me you will be carrying on the tradition of the use.
That's interesting. Jeff, one of the things that, as you look at the site plan, is that odd-shaped strip between Reisenstein and the property line that they diverge, and it would, is that a recorded right-of-way of the city that we can't alter? Because
Which one are we talking
That-
about? Kev?
up there where the 3 trees
Trees
are,
are, yeah, that's, that would be the city's right of way, yeah. Of north where the trees are essentially, right? We don't own that. Is that outside? Or is that?
That's yours.
That's ours, yeah.
I mean, it's a strange-looking right-of-way for
Sure
where the
is.
street is, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question would be that it would make that site more usable and attractive if there was some way to make that a straight line and, parallel to the city street. I don't know if anything can be done along those lines, but this, just a thought for consideration. And if there would ever be a time when there would be additional parking needed for that site, that would create space back there
That is one,
to
yeah.
make it functional, where it is not now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a strange-looking situation.
Yeah, as you can tell from the lot configuration.
Yeah,
it's-
and the whole area is strange in their lot configuration. Okay, just a thought
Yeah.
for the city to consider. Okay, at this time, I'm going to make final call for comments from the audience as before we close the public comment period. If anyone else would like to speak, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since you invited another comment, I just wanted to say, oftentimes when we're discussing renewal of areas that could use it, it takes sometimes a project such as this that can kickstart further development. This would be a node that, when it's completed, will generate interest, and interest can then generate developers to come in and get the property next to it and fix it up. And the next thing you know, it's spread all the way down to Broad Street. And then you see this over and over, and I'm hoping this is one of those types of projects where it kind of kickstarts development in an area that could use it. And that rising tide can start lifting some nearby boats. So I just wanted to say that not only as sort of the designer, but in support of the project as a citizen of New Bern. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one, it's not a question, more a comment. Along those lines, do we know if Habitat has any plans to participate in that improvement, the further improvements of the rest of the neighborhood? Is that on any sort of an agenda or thought process?
You want them sworn in for this?
No, I don't think so. I do state your name and address, please.
Mike Williams, I'm the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity here in Craven County.
He's not talking.
And to answer Mr. Dillon's question, yes, Habitat for Humanity is planning on revitalizing the entire community over time. We're currently constructing a new home on Bern Street. We've just completed one on North Bern. We will be starting another on Pasteur, which is a little further away from this. But our intention is to revitalize the entire community with partners like Tribe by Fire and the other organizations that are working to improve the community of Duffyfield.
Great.
Ms. Simmons, one last question from me. Is the funding for the rehabilitation of this structure in place yet?
No, it is not. We have upcoming fundraisers as well as some grant writing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have been through the six requirements that we're required to hear about, and we've had public comment period. And now that we've been through that, I will call for a motion to close the public comment period.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public comment period. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment is now over. Okay, now we're going to retread this entire process again as a board, and we will be discussing each one amongst ourselves as a board, and we will have a vote at the end of the discussion period to approve or disapprove each of these requirements. Okay. The first requirement, that the requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. Open to the board for discussion, questions, or motions.
I move that we find the requested permit is within this jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? If not, we'll have roll call.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading the ordinance. Where's my roll call list? Richard Parsons.
Yes.
Dorothea White.
Yes.
Peter Dillon.
Yes.
Jim Morrison.
Yes.
John Morrell.
Yes.
Kip Paragoy.
Yes.
Barbara Sampson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Move on to requirement number 2, that the application is complete. And we'll open to the board for comments, questions, motions.
Mr. Chairman, I move we find the application is complete.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? If not, we'll have roll call.
Barbara Sampson.
Yes.
Kip Paragoy.
Yes.
John Morrell.
Yes.
Jim Morrison.
Yes.
Peter Dillon.
Yes.
Dorothea White.
Yes.
Richard Parsons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Requirement number 3. If completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all the requirements of the ordinance. Questions, comments from the board?
I think we need to address the question of parking before we complete the motion.
Okay, and we can do that with, I would say with concurrence or agreement at this particular juncture, that we will follow the recommendation of the city staff to allow one parking space instead of the,
Two spaces.
well, one's handicapped, but one regular parking space, a handicap and a regular parking space, rather than the 5, I think that you said was required by city ordinance. And we can how does the board feel about doing that and adding that as a condition when we get down to conditions of the permit?
Mr. Chair, if I could just add a little more information to the record, in addition to the information provided in your packet, section 15-350 of our land use ordinance provides for special provisions for lots with existing buildings, and I will summarize, but it says essentially that structure for projects where there is an existing building on an existing lot and that building isn't proposed to be expanded, and that building predates the ordinance itself, which this one does. This building here was built in 1941, which predates our ordinance by 30 years or so, that they need not comply with the parking ordinance to the extent that parking is not practically available on the lot where it's located, which we've kind of demonstrated that, and I've seen the designs with 5 parking space, and it renders many of them unusable when one person parks in there, because there's just not enough space to move around, which is the first submittal the applicant gave to us. Their intent was to meet the ordinance, but again, working with them and trying to create a product that works for people, this was the compromise, and it makes for a better development. Furthermore, it does fit, as the testimony was given, into the business model of the proposed use, in that a lot of these are, most, if not all, of the people that will be utilizing the services here will not have driver's license, they won't have vehicles. Again, I noted that to the lot to the south of this, the city staff and the city CDBG program is in the process of purchasing a covered bus stop to be located on the lot just adjacent to this one to the south, and that CARTS has already verbally agreed to use that lot. With all that as a totality, staff felt very comfortable recommending to this board the recommendation of the reduced parking standards, and ask that you do approve it.
And from what I heard you say, though, it is also in the ordinance that we're covered in that process.
Correct.
By that variance in the order of the early development of the site predating the existing ordinance.
Correct.
So by grandfathering, it becomes a moot point? Essentially,
It's nice when you go through this process to lock in your rights as they are today. As Ms. Simmons goes forward with financing and grants, parking sometime will come up, and it's good to have your entitlement in place where a board such as the Board of Adjustment has approved the limited parking. If someone digs into it, anybody in lending would know that when they're digging into your finances and what you're doing, they want to make sure that your project meets all the rules and regulations. And if Ms. Simmons can't point really to an approval that allows her the variance of the reduced parking, it may cause problems in the future. It may not. But this, while we're here, is the best way to do it, and to do it right, and to lock in that entitlement from now until the end of time, or the end of that use. So that's the explanation.
Sounds good.
Okay, so again, if the board decides that they're willing to go along and accept the parking plan that is presented, are we better to deal with that as a condition at the end of this process, or should we deal with it as part of this approval of the ordinance, complying with the ordinance?
I would feel more comfortable as a condition, since that is part of the process for issuing special use permits. Conditions are part of that, and that would be, in my opinion, the best way to do it.
Richard, do you have any other questions?
That's not, we dealt with it.
Okay. Okay, so we're dealing with condition number 3, if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all the requirements of this ordinance. That good discussion. That was very well done.
Mr. Chairman, I move, if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all of the requirements of this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Especially as relates to what we're going to do with parking? Okay. Call the question. Roll call.
Richard Parsons?
Yes.
Dorothea White?
Yes.
Peter Dillon?
Yes?
Jim Morrison?
Yes.
John Morrell?
Yes.
Kip Paraguay?
Yes.
Barbara Simpson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Requirement number 4, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. Board, questions, comments?
Well, she already said it. She took care of that problem. You know, she already talked to the people she needed to talk to about, safety and everything. And she gonna have somebody stand there, so I think she did her homework and she did it well,
Okay. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, as proposed, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where it is proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment or questions from the board? If not, roll call.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Kip Paragoy,
Yes.
John Morrell,
Yes.
Jim Morrison,
Yes.
Peter Dillon,
Yes.
Dorothea White,
Yes.
Richard Parsons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we'll move on to requirement number 5, that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property. That's the first part of that question. Comments?
I think the visual evidence demonstrates there'll be an improvement.
I don't think there's any question about that. Is there a motion on item number 5?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property.
Second.
Jim, would you amend that and say that, and that the use is not a public necessity? So we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone in that?
Yes, I'll accept that amendment.
With the
That
second?
the use is,
Accept that?
The
is,
second, yeah.
I mean, you could almost argue it is.
Oh, yes,
It
the
is.
second.
Well,
It is not a public
in
necessity.
the phase of public necessity as defined in the ordinance, it
Right.
doesn't get there.
Yeah.
Morally, I think there's another question.
I
Okay, we have a
accept that.
motion and a second approved of the amended motion that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property and that the use is not a public necessity. Any further questions, comments? Roll call?
Richard Parsons,
Yes.
Dorothea White,
Yes.
Peter Dillon,
Yes.
Jim Morrison,
Yes.
John Morrell,
Yes.
Kip Paragoy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item number 6, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city. Comments or questions from the board? Does anyone have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional questions or discussion amongst the board? If not, we'll have a roll call.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Kip Paragoy,
Yes.
John Morrell,
Yes.
Jim Morrison,
Yes.
Peter Dillon,
Yes.
Dorothea White,
Yes.
Richard Parsons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, board, we have been through the 6 requirements and taken votes on it. The next question that has to be answered by the board is, do we approve or deny the special use permit?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the said project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the special use permit.
Was that Peter? Did you make the second?
I second.
Any questions, additional comments from the board about approval of the special use permit? Roll call?
Richard Parsons.
Yes.
Dorothea White,
Yes.
Peter Dillon,
Yes.
Jim Morrison,
Yes.
John Morrell,
Yes.
Kip Paragoy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we also have at this opportunity to apply any conditions that the board deems appropriate to attach to this special use permit. We've had some discussion about the parking issue, and this would, as we've heard, deemed the appropriate time to add a condition to the permit that specifies the amount of parking that's required for the, in association with this permit.
So,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I move we reduce the amount of off-street parking required from 3 spaces per 5 bedrooms to 1 space per section 15343.
If we could just add some reasoning behind it, that would help be
Uh,
consistent with the ordinance.
Considering the section 15350, I believe you quoted, as well as public transit
Good.
and accommodations that the transit have planned for the future.
Okay, great motion, thank you.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the condition that we are going to apply to the special use permit? If not, we'll call the roll.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Kip Paraguay,
Yes.
John Morrell,
Yes.
Jim Morrison,
Yes.
Peter Dillon,
Yes.
Dorothea White,
Yes.
Richard Parsons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All righty. Then that concludes the new business for this evening. Thank you all for your participation in this process.
Wish you good luck with it. I wish you good luck with it. Thank you.
Are we adjourned?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Is there any
moved.
further new business? Let me ask
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Any other new business that anyone would like to bring before the board? Okay, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second for adjournment. All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you all.